Hello and welcome to Endless Creep. If you are here for scary true tales and terrifying horror stories, then you are at the right place. This occurred in 2017 and is 100% true. Due to a multitude of factors, including a recent death of a close friend, I was unbearably depressed at this time in my life. For that reason, my family flew across the country to visit me in LA, where I live. We thought it would be nice to visit Catalina Island. When we arrived, it became apparent to us that it was off-season. It was late November, the weather was cold, and as a result, the island was nearly empty, besides locals and a few tourists such as ourselves. Our first priority was to ditch our luggage so we could explore the island, so we immediately checked into our motel, though that word hardly does the place justice. I call it a motel because all of the doors to the rooms exited to the outside. But in actuality, our room was one of 20 to 30 quaint guest house looking buildings arranged in a sort of a horseshoe shape around a walkway, with rooms on either side of the path. The entrance to the motel was essentially one of the points of the horseshoe, and if you walked dead straight, you'd reach the room we were given on the corner before you had to go right to go further into the horseshoe. So from our room, one path led to the back of the street, the other further into the secluded maze of rooms. Stay with me on this one. After a day of exploring and having just finished dinner, it was time for the cold, dark walk back to the room. Catalina Island is a decent distance from the mainland, and let me just say, it gets dark. Just about as dark was my headspace after the dinner conversation took a left-hand turn and my overwhelming depression got the best of me. I pulled my black hoodie tighter over my freezing ears and walked ahead of my parents to the hotel room, telling them I just needed to sleep. And I did immediately. Depression sometimes makes that easy. I was already losing consciousness as they entered after me, drifting off without so much as a good night. I then woke up to my mum saying my name, a harsh whisper. The room had two beds, my parents' bed closer to the door, and mine further in the room. My mum's voice cut through the silence again, but she sounded concerned for me. I didn't blame her, considering my mental state at the time. I groggily rolled over and asked her what. As my eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight coming in through the curtains, I saw her turn to face me. She was surprised to see me in my bed. Her eyes got wide. If I'm in my bed, who was she talking to? We both looked back to where she was previously standing, looking to see a hooded figure in all black standing over their bed. Try to understand how horrifically startling it is to be on an island in the middle of the ocean and wake up to see a hooded stranger looming over you. This moment seemed to last forever. Life isn't like the movies where characters unleash a blood-curdling scream. Sometimes the only thing that comes out is something panicked. My mum's words became low and severe as she said my dad's name in a dire voice I've never heard her use before. Then the hooded figure did something so bizarre and unsettling. It didn't advance towards us, but instead crouched in the corner near where it stood. The way it crouched was so absolutely unexpected, even in regards to this already unexpected situation, that it terrified me. It seemed animalistic. I knew two things. The hooded figure had been standing over us sleeping, and it's not acting in any sort of way that I can understand. As opposed to the infinite moment of this figure standing over us mere seconds ago, the series of events that unfolded when my hulking ex-military dad woke up happened in an instant. Suddenly we were out the door, not knowing which way the intruder went. My mum was screaming for my dad to get him, and my dad was running down one path of the horseshoe further into the hotel, shouting through sheer adrenaline, "I'm going to kill you." I ran down the other path towards the street. When I got there, not a sign of the intruder, but it became suspiciously quiet behind me. I ran back to the room to find my dad quietly walking back, his head low. He gets really close to me and I hear him say, "It's a kid." The explanation? Some young teen, tall and lanky as I am in my 20s, wearing all black including a black hoodie, went into the wrong room, our room, the one my parents just so happened to forget to lock the door. My mum woke up when he entered and seeing a tall person in a black hoodie, thought he was me, leaving the room in a depressive episode. And when the hooded figure crouched, that was him, realising his mistake and panicking. He was scared of us. As I got back to the room and my mum walked out and hugs this kid, who is now crying his eyes out, I would be too if a massive ex-soldier was sprinting after me with murder in his eyes. So, to the now traumatised kid from Catalina Island, I look forward to reading your Let's Not Meet of this same event from your perspective. A few years ago, I worked at a popular hooker lounge in my town. We had many regulars, so of course I got to know many people and made some lasting friendships with a few. Among those regulars was a group of people I wasn't terribly fond of, except one girl called Rachel. Rachel was a kind girl who I enjoyed talking to. I just didn't approve of the people she hung around with or the decisions that she made. But it was her life, so what place did I have to say anything? Eventually, Rachel started dating another regular named Ben, who was part of my friend group. This is when we got a lot closer and she started to trust me and confide in me more. Eventually, Rachel and Ben broke up and it devastated Rachel. I clearly remember her messaging me to hang out and her crying on my shoulder for about half an hour. During their relationship, Rachel stopped hanging around with the shady people as much, but of course afterwards she went back to them and started partying a lot and doing who knows what. She stopped talking to me as much and eventually started dating some other guy in the shady group named Greg. Of course that relationship went south due to reasons unknown to me, but Rachel ended up filing for a restraining order against Greg. A few days later, Rachel went missing and was never heard from again. It was awful and her family started showing up to talk to me, asking if I'd seen her. I hadn't seen her, but apparently someone told them that she was downtown somewhere. It broke my heart. One day, during a busy shift, someone we'd both talked to sometimes showed up and talked to me about Rachel's disappearance. His name for this story is POS. That stands for Piece of. I'm sure you can guess the rest. POS told me he heard about her being seen somewhere and wanted to know what I knew about it. He even asked me if I'd heard if anything bad happened to her. I'm assuming he thought since I worked at a regular hangout spot of hers, I'd hear something. I told him I hadn't and we hugged before he walked off to talk to other people. Months passed before I heard anything about Rachel. Her family showed up from time to time asking about her, but nothing had changed. Around a year after her disappearance, the police had a breakthrough in her case and her body was found. After some investigating, the police discovered that Greg had hired POS to kill Rachel, and he did. He hid her body and continued life as usual. The fact that I spoke to POS after what he'd done, and even hugged him still weighs in my conscience. It's been years and I'm still so upset about it. He's in prison and I'll likely never see him again, but it still hurts. I spoke to her family about her, having hugged the man who killed her. I wish I had been a better friend to her. Maybe I could have saved her. I could have insisted that she didn't hang out with those people. I don't blame myself for her murder, but I do wish I could have done something. Had I been a more insistent friend, maybe she'd still be here. Who knows? All I know is that if for whatever reason I do see him again, it won't be a good thing for him. He knew she was dead, and he still asked me if I had seen her or heard anything about her. POS, let's never meet again. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, please be sure to hit the subscribe button before you go. If you have any of your own scary true tales to share with us, then please email us. The email can be found in the description below. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe.